Hello wonderful people, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's my first official sewing tutorial and I'm so glad you stopped by. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do well to do that. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a wrap top with fullness at the sleeve and a 4 inches band beneath the waistline. So without wasting much time guys, we are just going to jump into the video. Do well to drop your questions in any way you don't understand or you want me to break it further. Thank you. So let's just get started. Shoulder, bust, half length, length of top, arm circumference, length of sleeve and round sleeve. These are the basic measurements we need to achieve. Tie analysis of the top. It has 2 panel front bodies intertwined with the belt. It has 1 full back block, that is, there is no slit coming in between it. It has fullness at the sleeve and a band from half length to the length of the top. So once you are able to break down a style or a dress you want to make, it just makes your work more easier and is a good way to get on the go. So guys, let's get started. So the first thing we are going to do is to draft out our main bodice pattern, and I've drafted that out already, both the front and the back pattern. And also I took away the darts because the fabrics I'll be using is a little bit stretchy and we don't need the darts in there, so I've taken off the darts. So these blocks are basically a dartless block. So this is the front and this is the back. For the front, I added about 5 inches extension to connect back to my neckline to allow the wrap and also to hold the belt. So depending on how or wide you want it, you can choose to use 5 inches. I love using 5 inches, and you can also choose to do more. So what I'm going to do next is just to connect the neckline of the wrap. Depending on how wide or how deep you want it, I choose to use 10. You can choose to use any measurements of your desire, just depending on how deep you want it to be. So for this 10, it's just going to allow my inner wear to show basically, and with that it can complement my dress. So that is why I'm using 10. You can choose to use 5. So this is going to, like, a wrap dress is going to be intertwined to each other. So that is the reason why we have to add the 5 inches extension, and bear in mind that it's going to have a rope, so we have to leave the allowance in which the rope is also going to sit properly on. I'm just going to use 2 inches allowance for the rope and also add half inches because down beneath the half length a 4 inches band is going to come in there all the waist round, and that is it. So half inches allowance for the band and 2 inches for the belt. And with that, having done that, we're just going to connect the belt back to the neckline. The line might not be perfectly slant, but when you're connecting it, just make sure that it's being connected well back into your neckline. And the next thing we'll do is to blend in the slanted line to your neckline properly. I'm just going to use my hand to blend that so well, blend it down. So after doing that, the next thing we want to do now is to add 1 cm seam allowance. We're going to sew the facing width, so just add 1 cm seam allowance, the same way we slanted the neckline back into the wrap, into the belt extension. We're also going to blend it back, and then we're going to cut it out. After cutting out, bear in mind that the front bodice is going to have 2 panels, like we said from the beginning of the tutorial, and it is going to intertwine it to each other. So for the back, we are going to cut it on fold, that is, there will be no slits in between, and because the back is going to be a full bodice, that is no slit, So the next thing we are going to do is to cut on our fabrics. Like I said, our fabrics is a little bit stretchy, and when cutting on a stretchy fabric, you have to confirm the side in which is stretchy. So I've placed the front bodies directly on the fabrics, and one two piece for it, because one is going back and the other is going forth. So after placing the pattern, the next thing we are going to do is to confirm our stretchy parts if it's vertically aligned with the bust side. So after doing that, the next thing we are going to do is to pin it down and to cut it out. After cutting out, you can see that we have two panels for the front already, so we are just going to go ahead and unpin it. Then after unpinning it, the next thing we want to do is to cut out the facing of the front. You can choose to use a bias and you can choose to use a facing. Usually a facing is more wider than a bias, as we use the same fabrics to cut it out. Then we place the front the same way we cut out the main front bodies. We place it on the fabric depending on how wide you want it to be. I'm going to be using 4 inches. Then after doing that, the next thing to do is to cut it out. So I had also done the same thing for the back. I've folded it and cut it on fold. Like we said, there is no slit coming in between it. So I had also gone ahead to cut the belt. So for the belt, I used my waist measurement plus 10 inches depending on how long you want it to be, whichever way it suits you. So the same way we did for the front, we are also going to go ahead and cut the facing for the back using the neck. I choose to use about 1.5 inches depth for the neckline of the back, bearing in mind that the neckline at the back of a wrap dress is not usually deep. So that is the reason why we use 1.5 inches. You may even choose to use 1 depending, but 1.5 inches so we can also join our shoulder allowance easily. So having done that, the next thing we are going to do is to cut out our facing for the back the same way we did for the front. You fold your fabrics the same way you folded it to cut out the main bodies, just that it's a little bit shorter than the main bodies. Trim out, cut out the neckline, cut it all the way into the armhole. Then depending on how wide you want the facing to be, I choose to use about 4. Then I'll connect it back to the armhole and I'll cut it out. So that is that about facing. A facing is usually wider than a bias and it gives the work a good finishing. So guys, please, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please make sure you do that, as this is the push I need to keep going. I've found the facing on the main fabrics and we stitch it out. We do the same thing for the front. Place the facing on it, then we stitch it all down. So a quick one guys, the belt is going to go inward. Before stitching down the front facing, we sew the belt, put it by the belt rack, then sew down the facing alongside. So the next thing we are going to do is to get our band measurement. Our length of top is about 18 inches and the arm length is 14, so we have about 4 inches band coming in around the waist. So the first thing to do is to measure the front waistline is about 13, and also get the back waistline is about 8. So the front is going to be 13 plus 13, that is 26, and the back 8 plus 8, that is about 16, and we have a sum total of about 43. So our band is going to be 4 inches wide on fold and is going to be about 43 inches long, and then we cut it out. The next thing we are going to cut is the ruffles I intend putting by the neckline of the wrap. So I'm going to use about 4 inches for it, then on fold is going to be about 2 inches after measuring it. So the next thing we are going to do is to cut it out. The last thing we are going to cut is the sleeve. So depending on how wide you want it to be, I'm using about 15 inches, and on fold that is 30 inches. So guys, we shape out the sleeve cap, then we cut it out, The fullness of the sleeve is going to be for the armhole. We're going to place it into the armhole, and for the hem we're going to use an elastic to pull it back to fit. I'm so sorry if you're not seeing the sleeve, the way I cut the sleeve properly. I didn't realize earlier that my camera was not properly positioned, and I'm going to work well on this in my next video. So having done that, the next thing I'm going to do is to get on the sewing machine and stitch it down. So the first thing I'm just going to go ahead and do is to set the hem of the facing with an overlocking machine. But if you don't have an overlocking machine, there is no problem. You can just stitch it all the way down using your straight sewing machine by folding in the hem and neatly sewing it down. The next thing we are going to do is to sew the belt. When you want to sew the belt, just make a slant line by the hem, then you sew it straight down using your 1 cm seam allowance. So the belt is the first thing we are going to sew because we are going to attach it to the front, to the extension of the wrap dress before sewing down the facing. So after stitching the belt, the next thing I'm going to do is to launch it and turn it inside out. After doing that, we are going to place the belt at the wrap belt extension. Then we are going to stitch it all the way down. When you're stitching, make sure you leave about 1 cm for the facing to come in up. Then we go ahead and attach the facing and stitch it all the way through the belt rack and the neckline. After this, we launch the edge of the belt rack to the neckline to give it a flat press. Then we turn it to the other side and we use an hemming gum to hold it to the main fabrics. We do the same thing for the other panel of the front bodies, and this is what we have. Then after then, what we're going to do is to hem it and give it a nice press. We go ahead and attach the back facing also to the neckline. We stitch it down, and after then we launch it. While launching, please ensure that you do not go above the seam allowance. Launch it, then turn it over to the other side, and we're also going to hem it and give it a nice press as well. So guys, I've ironed out all the panels, the front, the back, the ruffles, the sleeve. I just went ahead and pressed everything. And having done that, guys, please, this is a quick reminder for you to subscribe to the channel. I believe that if you have come this far, you must have learned something. So the next thing we are going to do is to join the shoulder, and we are going to turn the shoulder using the facing, turning into the other way around, and we stitch it down at the wrong side. By the time we are done stitching it down, we launch it, and after launching it, we open it up, and this is what we have. As you can see, we are done joining the first shoulder. We go ahead and join the second shoulder as well, and when we are done with that, we go ahead and sew the ruffles by folding it into two. Then we stitch it all the way down with 1 cm, and after doing that, we turn it inside out. Then we place it on the neckline or wherever you desire it to be, and then we just split it all the way down to your desired position. So this is what we have, and you can see that it's looking so beautiful. So the next thing we are going to do is to attach the sleeve to the armhole, but before then we have to tape in the hem of the sleeve by folding in about half an inch to allow the passage of the elastic inwards. So you can use a safety pin to go through, but I can't find mine, so I'm just using a broom. When using a broom, all you need to do is just to make sure that you hold on properly to both the broom and the elastic, and take your time to pass it through the hem. So while you get to the other edge, secure the elastic and pull it to your desired choice, then sew the other end and leave it at that. To attach the armhole, We are going to start from the side, then we are going to stitch it up, but while approaching the upper part of the shoulder, I'm going to go ahead to pleat the excesses, that is the fullness, to make it puff upper at the upper part, then stitch it all the way down. We are just going to go ahead and do that for the other side of the sleeve. Attach the second sleeve also, and after doing that, the next thing is to join the sleeve down into the side of the dress and take in the fitting. So I think for the second side we'll do the same thing. We stitch down the sleeve into the side, but the only difference for this is that we have to leave about 2 inches unstitched so that our belt can pass in through. But before then, we have to make sure that we reverse the last stitch properly in order to avoid it from losing. Then we go ahead also to sew down about half an inch beneath the 2 inches we left for the belt so that the band can go all the way around it. After that, we are just going to sew down the fabrics of the side in which we left the 2 inches open for the belt in order for it not to hinder the belt from passing through. So after, we just make a stitch around it and stitch it all down. And lastly, we are going to attach the band all the waist round of the top. But firstly, I'm just going to confirm the measurements of the band with that of the waistline, if they are properly aligned. If they are properly aligning, then we just go ahead and stitch the hem of the band, then we input it and stitch it all the waist round. So guys, to God be the glory, we are done making the top. Please, in case you haven't subscribed, you haven't liked, and you haven't dropped your comments or your question, please make sure you do so, and also ensure to turn on your notification bell. Trust me guys, if you follow my channel back to back with 3 months interval, I'm pretty sure that your sewing skills are going to increase. So I hope you can see the way I'm just tying the top. You can see that it's beautiful and you deserve one in your wardrobe. So why not try to make one? You can just get some fabrics and sew. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate, and I'll do my best to attend to all questions. So that is that for today, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you so much guys. You can see the sleeve is also nice. Until next time, see you.